Ona Porter and Miriam Rand have been together for 25 years. They say it's time for New Mexico to allow them to marry, just like any other couple committed to a lifetime relationship. The two, along with partners Rose Griego and Kim Kyle, are asking New Mexico's Supreme Court to rule on the legality of same-sex marriage here in New Mexico. The couple spoke with NMIF correspondent Gwyneth Dolan about why they are seeking nothing less than marriage.
All of you are being represented by the ACLU of New Mexico in a petition to the Supreme Court seeking the freedom to marry. Thank you for being here today to talk about this. Kim, I'm going to start with you. The marriage rate is at its lowest point in a century, and half of all first marriages end in divorce. If this is such a bummer of a club, why do you want to be in it?
Well, I think that it's a good question. I don't know that it's a bummer of a club for everyone. I think that there's a lot of people, and Rose and myself included, who want to be a part of this club and really want to make this commitment to each other and proceed in our life this way. So, you know, it is unfortunate that there are so many people who do go down that path and go to divorce, but there's a lot of people who don't, and so I think that we really want to participate in the institution of marriage.
And like many heterosexual couples, I think we want the freedom to choose whether or not to marry.
That's exactly right.
And we want the privileges associated with marriage if we choose to marry.
In terms of commitment, though, Rose, you guys have been together 9 years. Mm-hmm. That's pretty committed.
Right.
You know, why is it important to you to go beyond what your close friends and your families know is the bond between you and the life that you share? Why marriage?
Well, because we're doing all of the hard work of marriage already. The little things, the day-to-day things I'm dealing, you know, when our kids were younger, you know, we had to deal with going to the school to make sure that, you know, we're advocating for our kids in school and, you know, making sure that, you know, with their health care and that sort of thing, you know, being there for them, you know, that's a familial thing. You have to have a parent structure to be able to take care of those sorts of things. And it was going to happen regardless of whether we have a legal piece of paper. But that legal piece of paper is that next step that makes those things easier for us, because we've been through that before where, you know, I was hospitalized once and Kim had no real legal rights. Even though we have a domestic partnership legal document. But that's something we have to carry around with us to prove our relationship. But most heterosexuals can say, this is my wife, this is my husband, and that's just an implied, you know, contract that everybody understands. And I think that's the recognition, part of the recognition that we want from the general public, not just from, you know, from our friends and family.
Ona, you know, we brought up domestic partnership. Doesn't domestic partnership cover a lot of these things?
You know, some states have really tried to install domestic partnership in the place of marriage. And there are lots of rights that are associated with that, but it doesn't have the same social implication at all and the same sanctions, positive sanctions, that marriage has.
Miriam, speaking of, you know, there's a legal recognition of your relationship, and then there is a social recognition of that. You know, some opponents would say that this is forcing a social recognition of something they don't approve of. How do you feel about that?
Well, they don't have to come to our wedding. And what I really believe is that we should have the right to choose, just as they do. And their values around gay and lesbian marriage are, they have the freedom to talk about that and vote as they wish, but they don't have the right to stop us from legalizing our union.
Kim, speaking of voting, if the state Supreme Court decides that you do have a legal right to marry, it is something that would not have gone to the voters as a constitutional amendment would, or through the legislature as same-sex marriage law would. And there are people who don't like that. They want to have a say. Why shouldn't we allow people to vote on a constitutional amendment?
Well, I don't think that it's necessarily the right thing to do to vote on someone's rights. and to be able to say, well, you can get married and you can't get married, and I think that going through the court system is probably a better way to go through this process. I don't really feel like it's appropriate for someone to vote whether or not it's right for me to marry Rose, or it's right for Miriam and Una to marry.
Rose, being a part of this lawsuit, you've been in the paper, you're on TV right now. Was it a hard decision for you to make to take this very public stand and put yourself out there? Has it changed your life?
Yeah, it's changed our lives in a good way, because we've always put ourselves out there. That's just part of the intrinsic nature of being an outsider. So, but this is something that we deeply believe in, and that we deeply believe is going to enhance our lives. And if we feel that way, we want to be a part of sharing that with the rest of the gay community. So I think it's very important that we put ourselves out there. And so far it's been a good experience. We haven't had any real negative backlash or anything like that. And I think the tide of public opinion is changing. So, and this sort of outreach is helping because they're seeing the face of what, the real gay community looks like.
Have you guys had any negative feedback or?
Very little, very little. And we, one of the things that we have thought about is that Miriam and I have always been involved in our community on behalf of those who have been marginalized. And we couldn't imagine a time where we couldn't stand for ourselves and for others. And I think that we get to be the face of something that is much bigger than we are. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be that face.
And we decided very purposefully not to get married in another state because we wanted to wait for New Mexico to do the right thing and allow us equal rights to heterosexual families.
Does taking this public stand for any of you mean that people you don't know very well all of a sudden want to talk about your love life? I mean, are you getting weird questions from coworkers or people who you sort of know, your dentist and stuff like that today?
I'm getting a lot of support from my clients and people that I do know, and so I think that's been really welcoming. And I don't think I'm getting, you mentioned the love life part. People aren't asking weird questions, but they're giving me a lot of support, which is great.
I've been getting a lot of questions about my family and how they feel about it because I come from kind of a conservative family. My father is Hispanic Catholic and my mother is Japanese, so both very conservative backgrounds, and they've actually been pretty supportive of everything that we've been going forward with, so it's kind of nice and it gives a different perspective because I totally understand that not everyone has the same views and that there's going to be some evolution in thinking, and my parents are a great example of that because 20 years ago when I came out, they did not understand, and so now taking this path and going this route, they are getting what it means to us to be able to have these rights and move forward with the marriage equality.
Let me ask the whole table, did your parents have very traditional roles in their marriages?
Mine did.
Mine did too.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because this spring, the lawyer defending the California same-sex marriage ban at the Supreme Court argued that to allow same-sex marriage would undermine traditional marriage by destroying marital norms. How do you feel about that?
From my perspective, our relationships are not unlike the relationships of our neighbors and our family and our friends. And it just happens that it's two women together. But we play all the same roles in terms of being each other's supporters economically, emotionally, politically. We also care for our children and our extended families in the same ways that other families do. We go through the hard times and the good times together. They're just the idea that who we are and how we are is in any way going to impact others is something that is very peculiar to me.
Miriam, does the idea of marital norms raise the hair on the back of your neck at all? I mean, do you want to be normal?
Well, I think marital norms have not fared very well, in fact, and that perhaps we can add some strength and some reliability to marriage that doesn't exist today. So I think that it would be a positive and favorable thing to mix up the norms a little bit.
Well, that's a very good point you bring up, because just this week I ran across this study from the National Institutes of Health. They studied the couples who got married in Vermont in the early 2000s, and now they've been together 10 years. And they've done this huge, long study of those couples and some straight couples as a control group. And they found that the gay couples were happier, in part because they had less traditional roles at home. And, you know, some other things too, but they divided the housework and the chores more equally, which we know is always a struggle in every relationship. Who's the messy one? Who's the messy one? None of you are messy? Admit it. All right. That's the messy one, right? There's always the messy one, that's me, and then there's the neat one, and then you bicker over who's going to do the dishes and stuff like that. But does that study sound like something that's true of you? Have you reinvented these roles, you know, doing something really different from what your parents did?
I think that's very true for us, because we created a system in the house where, you know, we decide who cooks that night and who does the dishes.
We're much
You
more
know, I
equal.
mean, it's an equal process, and you know, we've split up the chores. It's very true. You know, it's not one of us does them and the other one sits and watches TV.
But
so
that's also a generational change too, because you see with millennials that they're following our model more closely than they were the traditional models, because there are a lot of, you know, stay-at-home dads, and, you know, the pay equity is, you know, evening out at that age. So, you know, there is no, you know, so people are sharing more of the responsibilities of creating a household and a home, unlike before, where it was, you know, traditional male breadwinner and, you know, female stay at home. So
When I think
it's all
about
shaken up.
the question in that regard, I think we fulfill all the roles, but we don't fulfill them in a very prescribed way.
You put them back in the hat and you pull them out in a different order?
Well, yeah, you know, and it's really around our strengths, our interests. You know, there are things that Miriam does and does excellently that I don't do so well, and there are some things that I do very well and that she doesn't care about. But it all, you know, it's about an intentional relationship, and we talk about that a lot in relationship to adoption, and we actually have an adopted child. But when you are becoming an adoptive parent, you're becoming an intentional parent. You have to think carefully about that, and you have to go through all kinds of things in order to achieve that. And in our relationships, that's been true very much also. So if this is, you know, if there aren't any models for what this is supposed to be, then we are intentional in how we create our lives together.
We only have a few minutes left, so I want to whip through two things that probably deserve more time. But speaking of your kids, have your kids gone through any troubles with trying to explain things to their friends or to other grown-ups?
My kids are now in their early 20s, and they have always been proponents of I have two moms, and very proud of that, and stood up for that, and been you know, just very proud kids of having two moms. And I don't think they've ever had any serious backlash that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm.
I think the youngest of our daughters, who went to an institution in Albuquerque that was anti-gay marriage or gay relationships, had some difficulty in high school. She is also the same child, however, who testified at the legislature against DOMA when she was
Sixth grade.
in the sixth grade, knowing full well that she would have a public face then to our family, and she chose that very carefully. And in fact, in her adulthood, she has had calls from gay and lesbian people who said, because of her strength testifying against DOMA at the legislature, that they were able to embrace their own sexuality and come out to their families and feel safe. If she could do that, they could do that. Mm-hmm. So although she had some negative experiences, I think that in the long run it's been positive for all of us.
She also, in that same, as a young child in elementary school, if kids picked on her or anything for any reason, she thought they were jealous because she had two moms.
All right, last question. If your lawsuit is successful and New Mexico recognizes same-sex marriages, big wedding, small wedding, what are you going to do? What are you guys going to do?
I don't think we've decided yet, but there are lots of people who want to come.
You've had 20 years to plan this.
25.
You guys?
We've had a ceremony with a lot of friends and family, so we'll probably have a small, intimate ceremony, with just a few folks.
But definitely a celebration.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being with us here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.